Hello and welcome to a new video. Today we're gonna take a look at the rank 1 in the world team right now for the Open Ultra League from a Japanese player. They were so friendly and sent me the team, but not only that, they also sent me the team for the Great League, which they mainly played prior. So if you're interested in this team, let me know by leaving a like on the video here. I'm going to showcase it then if we when we're going to get the Great League back. But here we're gonna now take a look at their team that they ran for getting rank 1 in the world, but they said they only played one set with us. So we're going to take a look if this is actually a decent team or not. What are the weaknesses of this team? Do you want to play this team yourself? Also, they're mostly running the normal Walrein in the back, but I only have the Shadow variant built, so I decided to go for the Shadow variant instead of building a new one. But this team is going to be Virizion. I don't know the moveset of Virizion. Well, for the other two Pokemon, of course, the moveset is kinda known already. Like, you're only going to have really one moveset that you want to run on the Greedent as well as for the Walrein. You don't know if you're going to run the Stone Edge, for example, on the Virizion, but I feel like you don't really need to do it, and I feel like this is the best way to do it right now. But we're going to take a look here now at the team as well. We're going to have the Greedent, which is most likely the safe swap from them. We're going to have the Walrein in the back, which is most likely closer, as well as we're going to be able to just go for a Body Slam here with our Greedent, which is going to be nice. So we're going to get the knockout here. And we're going to take a look now at the opponent's Giratina coming in. They're going to go for the Dragon Claw. And as you're going to see, we can just try to go for the Crunch. But let's see if this is going to work out. We can still get there, and this is going to get hopefully the debuff or something like this against the opponent. It does not, but it's going to get the shield, and we can now win the game with our Walrein. Moving on, let's take a look at the next game coming up. We're going to have here the Virizion against the Granbull. This is going to be an interesting one as well, so we can swap out into our Greedent, which is going to be able to go for some Body Slams against them, but they decide to swap out into their Empoleon here. And I kind of want to realign because, of course, I don't want to have the Shadow Granbull against our lead of the Virizion, but here, as you're going to see, we're going to get the Empoleon out of there. We can just go ahead and go for a Crunch. This Crunch is going to be able to do some decent damage against the opponent. We got the debuff in the beginning, I think. So we are going to be able to just go for the Body Slam here. That's going to get the knockout against the opponent. And I will be able to still realign my Pokemon. I can go for the Body Slams against the opponent, but also the Granbull is going to have access to the move Close Combat, and I don't really want to give up my final shield, and as the opponent decides to swap out there basically immediately, I'm fairly certain that they're going to be not as weak against my Virizion. That's why I decided to swap into my Virizion here, as I can now go into my Walrein. This is going to be an interesting one here, as well as I can just go ahead and go for the Icicle Spear against the opponent, as this is going to still be a bad matchup. Basically, the Cresselia is going to be a counter for both my lead as well as my Pokemon in the back here, but I was still able to align actually the way I kind of want to align, because the charge moves are actually way more threatening from Cresselia onto my lead here than from the Shadow Granbull, which is kind of funny. So what I'm actually going to be able to do, I can still go for an Icicle Spear, the opponent going to go for their own charge move here right now, but I will be able to just get some extra energy now, and I can go for the Leaf Blade before they can go for their own charge move, allowing me to get the knockout against the Cresselia, as well as I only need one more fast move to reach another charge move, and as long as they're not having Play Rough for whatever reason on their Granbull, which nobody is running, I will actually be able to win this game after having a horrible lead. This was actually a very cool one, as well as they can now take this victory. Moving on to the next opponent, let's take a look at what they're going to run, and this is going to be already one of the weaknesses of this team. It's going to be the Charizard. Charizard is going to be fairly difficult to deal with, especially if you get, of course, completely hard countered here by Cobalion as well, but Charizard, of course, is going to be a tricky one. It is easier to deal with if you have the normal Walrein though, because the normal Walrein going to be able to survive those Blast Burns, while the Shadow variant going to struggle a little bit more against it. So I would recommend you, if you have the normal Walrein, to go for the normal variant of it. But this is definitely going to be one of the more awkward Pokemon to deal with. But yes, you can see we can still go for the Body Slam spam from the Greedent. I wish Greedent would get a different charge move other than Crunch, because then you would be able to use it a little bit more effective against like those Pokemon like Cobalion here. Something like even, I don't know, some ground type move or whatever would be cool. But we can still farm them down. I'm going to trick the opponent, basically baiting that I have Stone Edge here on my Virizion. This would be the only reason to go for a charge move here, and I get the shield, which is very smart for me and by me, as I can now go up against the opponent's Registeel, can still go for the Earthquake, and the opponent is going to decide here to use the shield early, which does make a lot of sense. But now they're going to be shieldless, and I'm going to be able to use a shield against the opponent's Zap Cannon, which of course is going to get the attack drop immediately. I mean, you can kind of expect it here. But I can still go for an Earthquake, which is going to be able to get some damage onto them. they're gonna go directly for the next charge move, and I'm gonna go for 7 fast moves here right now, and then hope that I can catch the Focus Blast onto my Virizion, which does not work out at all. And so yeah, this is going to be a little bit of an awkward one. I can still get some damage onto the opponent, I can still try to go for the Icicle Spear here. I should still be able to survive a Blast Burn, but with like a 1 HP and the opponent has a moveset onto the Registeel, so in this case there's not a lot that I can do here, and the opponent is going to take this one even without the Registeel. Moving on to the next game, we're going to encounter the Tentacruel in the lead. We can just go ahead and go into our Greedent, which is a very decent force, as we can just go ahead and go for some Body Slam spam here. Fast move is going to be super effective, but the opponent decides to swap out into the Registeel. And at this point of time, I was like, I got a little bit of time from the switch clock, so I feel like for me it's worth it to just go for the crunch here, get some extra energy, and then try to swap out into my Virizion in order to get the damage from the opponent onto that Pokemon instead of my little squirrel here. Of course, Focus Blast would be super effective, so I decided to swap out here. And because I went for a Body Slam early on against the Tentacruel, I should still be able to reach another charge move in time here, which I will be able to do. So the Sacred Sword is coming through. This is going to do some decent amount of damage against the opponent. Sadly, didn't get a debuff from Crunch before, which would have put them into KO range there. But I can let this move go through. They're gonna go for the Blizzard, and now I have to hope that there's something in the back that I can deal with. I can still go for the Body Slam spam with my little squirrel here, as Greedent is gonna go ahead and can just out-spam them here. But as you're going to see, the opponent is very bulky and they decide to swap out here because we saw already that they're running the Blizzard, so usually they run Scald Blizzard. Scald is basically guaranteed. So for me, this was a way of getting a ton of extra energy, which turns out to be most likely a very smart decision here. As the opponent goes back into their Registeel, we're going to encounter the final Pokemon being the Charizard. But again, I kinda going to regret some stuff, and this is something that I definitely have to learn. Like, it's always good to see like the things where you can improve still on, and here's something that's definitely one of my weaknesses. Like, you're going to see it now afterwards. I'm gonna go swap into the Greedent, all fine here. I'm playing that's basically perfectly fine, as exactly how you kind of want to do it. I'm still going to use a shield here just in case. I know it's going to be a Dragon Claw, but I feel like maybe I actually should have let this move go through as well in hindsight. But I will still get to the Body Slam here, and you're going to see me wait here for a little bit, but still going to throw against the Registeel, because every time I wait, I still kind of throw afterwards for whatever reason, even though I wait the half a turn, which you're supposed to do. And so the opponent's going to be able to just completely annihilate my Squirrel, and they can win this game here. But this was definitely winnable if I played it better. Moving on, next one, going to be the Regirock in the lead. Amazing lead for me, but we're gonna get out the opponent's Zapdos. And this is of course not the normal Zapdos, it's going to be the Galarian version. And this Pokemon is going to be able to realign in the two-shield scenario. And I actually don't think that the Shadow bonus makes a difference here, or like any difference in general. I think they still would have been able to farm me down in the two-shield scenario, but I'm going to check this real quick because I'm kind of interested in it. If here maybe the normal Walrein would have helped me out a little bit more. But the Galarian Zapdos seems to be a very decent Pokemon here, and I actually expected that they would have the close combat here only, but they don't. They're actually running Brave Bird, which is a smart decision, I guess, but I will be able to still go for a charge move. Just checking on the side here real quick, and it says as well, if you are the normal variant, you still would lose in the two-shield scenario against the Zapdos, so there was nothing that you can really do here. Moving on, let's take a look at the next opponent. We're going to encounter Greninja in the lead, which is going to be a very decent one for me, as you're going to get out the opponent's Clefable. The likelihood of them going straight for the Moonblast is fairly high, so we're going to use a shield immediately. But of course, we can also get debuffed from Moonblast, and you know me, I'm usually getting debuffed from every single move where it's possible. But luckily this time around I don't get debuffed, which is already something very positive for me. So let's take a look at the next move here coming up. They're going to go for another Moonblast most likely. But I will be able to reach those Body Slams fairly fast, so I should be able to outspeed them to the next one as well, hopefully at least, as we can try to go for our Body Slam in time, and we can reach it, which is going to be amazing, as otherwise I still would have used another shield, and mostly I tried to farm him down there. But like this, we're going to be able to even go for some Body Slams against the opponent's Greninja, which will allow us to get the opponent fairly low, and we will see what they're going to run later on in the back. But I'm actually going to even be able to go for another charge move here, which is very good for me, as this is going to get the opponent insanely low enough for like around 2 double kicks, as the opponent gonna go for a Hydro Cannon to knock me out. We're going to encounter the Charizard in the back, and I have to say, if the opponent does not bait me here, this game is over. Like, the only win con for me is hoping that the opponent is going to bait me, because I don't have a way to hit this with my Virizion. So maybe they're running Stone Edge usually, but the Blast Burn is coming through, and yeah. So, definitely one of the biggest weaknesses for this team is Charizard, which is something that is kinda common it feels like, but at least we're going to take a look at the next game here where we're going to encounter Gliscor. Also, we're only going to have 9 games here today, because the 10th game, like, I played 2 full sets with this team. Like, one game, like, the opponent just didn't do a single attack and I just was able to knock them out. I waited for them for like a minute, but I don't think it's really valuable information. Here I make a very bad call basically by going for the Icicle Spear. I could have just went for the straight farm down most likely there, or would have went for the Icicle Spear one fast move before the opponent gets to their own short move. I thought I actually would be able to win CMP, but I guess Gliscor is less bulky than the Walrein, as they're going to still go up against the Squirrel here. The Greedent is going to go for the Body Slam spam, and I can realign my Pokemon as they're going to have their own Toxicroak in the back. And here we're going to go to the Core Breaker number 2. It's going to be the Toxicroak. So, if you are in a meta where you don't encounter too many Shadow Charizards and Toxicroak, this team might be something for you. But I think in the 10 games I played, I think I encountered 2 or 3 Charizards and definitely 2 Toxicroaks. So yeah, like it's a little bit tricky, of course, if you encounter literally the best core breakers for your team. Here I'm still going to be able to go for another Body Slam, which is going to be amazing, as I can swap out into my Virizion, going for the charge move here of Leaf Blade. This Leaf Blade is coming through and gonna do some decent damage against the opponent, enough to get them into farm down range, and this is going to be it also for this game, as the Sacred Sword is going to do some super effective damage, stab as well against the opponent's Greedent, and we just need one more to win us this game. So goodbye little Squirrel, as we can now move on to the second to last game of this video. Moving on, we're going to have the Toxicroak on the lead. As I said before, this is going to be an awkward one. I'm going to swap out into my Greedent. I can reach the Body Slam in time, which is going to be kind of nice for me, so I can at least get some damage onto them. I decided to go into my Greedent. Yes, the fast move is going to be super effective against me, but we're going to get out even this Steelix here, which is not as bad for me. And I kind of want to keep my Greedent alive, but I can still go for the Crunch here onto the CMP tie, which I feel like is a decent play, as this is not going to get the debuff either. Like, honestly, Crunch like was not there for me, but I can still at least go ahead and try to get some extra energy and swap out in time, and I do exactly this. And I have 2 Body Slams stored, which is exactly what I kind of want to have here. The opponent goes for a Breaking Swipe, smart decision, but I can still reach the Sacred Sword in time, which is going to do some decent damage against the opponent's Steelix, which the opponent is going to now retaliate with their own Toxicroak. I'm going to be using both of my shields here, I think, as I can still go for Leaf Blade as well. I want to go straight for it, but my Pokemon just went for an extra fast move for whatever reason, so that's not really ideal. At least we have the CMP tie here, which is going to allow us to turn on the clock a little bit there. I can swap out, I can go for my Body Slam. We had a little bit of lag there as well, but the Greedent is gonna get to that charge move, gonna get the knockout there, and we will see that they're going to run in the back the not the Virizion, the Tapu Fini. And this game is something that I could definitely win as well, if I would play it smart, or if I would expect not my opponent to play it weird. We want to take a look at this one real quick. We're going to go for the Leaf Blade here. The opponent going to use a shield. That's totally fine. I can go for another Leaf Blade. The opponent is going to use most likely another shield here, which they do, which is fine. So basically, the opponent is now in a range where I can go for an Earthquake with my Walrein and knock them out. So I expect the opponent to swap out eventually into their Steelix. So I decide to overfarm by a little bit. Turns out the opponent doesn't want this. And it's going to be even worse, because as you're going to see here, I can go for the Earthquake against the opponent, but I got the debuff from the Moonblast. As said before, I always get those debuffs, doesn't matter what I'm gonna do. And so, I'm also not in a range where I would be able to knock out the opponent's Steelix with just the Icicle Spears. So yeah, like, this is definitely not the way you're supposed to play it. I could have definitely won this if I played a little bit better. But we're gonna now take a look at the next opponent. We're going to have a Greninja here in the lead. A great lead for me. I can go for a Leaf Blade and then swap out into my Greedent. You see a little bit of lag there, which is going to only allow me to go for a Great. Isn't this great? It's not great, but we're going to be able to at least let this next move go through. Hopefully they don't get the debuff immediately, and they do not get the debuff here, which is amazing for me. It's only, I think, a 30% chance for Skull to debuff your attack, so we should be kind of fine here with the next Body Slam as well. We're going to even outspeed the opponent, and as long as they don't debuff me here, I think I can maybe even go for the full farm down. So let's see what we can do here. We're going to be able to use a shield, and the opponent going to go for the Scald and gets the debuff. We can still go for the full farm down, but the debuff is really coming in clutch for the opponent, as you're going to see now, because without the debuff, the opponent, Greninja there, would go down to not 2, but to 3 Body Slams here. But as you can see here, thanks to us taking the debuff from the opponent's Tentacruel, the opponent's Greninja is going to be able to survive this fairly easily. And it's going to be a way more difficult matchup, so I decide to swap immediately into my Walrein. expecting the opponent to swap out immediately as well. And this was exactly what's happening here. The opponent is going to go into their Weezing, which is okay for me. They're going to go straight for the Brutal Swing first, but I can just go for the Icicle Spear, and of course they're going to run Overheat in the back most likely. I can let the next move go through, it's going to be the Overheat, and now it was crucial that I have the IVs that I have, because like this I can still get to 2 Icicle Spears with 1 HP left, and I can even swap out and still keep my Walrein in the back alive, maybe for a shield later on basically. But I'm going to even let this move go through. Like, the only way here is to bait me to get the shield, swap out and go for an Overheat later on, so I decided to not do this. I waited out the turn there actually correctly this time around, and I can just go for the Leaf Blade, knock them out, and win this final game. So, cool team, thanks for letting me share this, and also, if you want to see the Great League variant of what they were running to get that high up into the leaderboards, then definitely leave a like on the video and subscribe. So see you then, bye bye.